Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of This Week in Legal Blogging. This is Bob Ambrogi on behalf of LexBlog. And once again, today we're going to be talking to a legal blogger about how she got started, what motivates her, what keeps her going. A reminder that we are going to be doing this show every week at this time. So watch for it again next week, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, noon Pacific Time. And you're also going to be able to find all of these programs posted to
YouTube.
I'm sorry, I'm going to mute myself there. Posted to YouTube at youtube.com/LexBlog. So today, my guest is Karen Rubin. Karen is a lawyer counsel at Thompson Hines in Cleveland, and she writes the blog, The Law for Lawyers Today. Karen, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you and welcome and good to see you. And I guess I just kind of have to ask everybody these days just how you're doing, apart from blogging and lawyering and everything else in this crazy time. How are you doing?
It is a crazy time, but thank heavens we're all doing well. It's working from home since the middle of March, and it's a little harder to feel like you're not on a hamster wheel, but without a commute. But it's a short commute from the upstairs office to the downstairs living room, but do it every day, and it becomes the new normal.
Right, I know it. Yeah. The new normal, I look forward to being the old normal at some point.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, let's start with just, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, what your practice is before we get to your blog?
Sure. So I've spent my whole career at Thompson Hines. I'm a born and bred Clevelander. Graduated from our state law school here in Cleveland State, and went right on to its law school, Cleveland Marshall College of Law. Was lucky enough to do well and got an offer from Thompson Hines, where I started and remain to this day. I'm a business litigator, but over the years, I've focused my practice on, I guess, what we call the law of lawyering. So I and some colleagues are on the team that handles Thompson Hines, all of our lawyering kinds of issues, from conflicts of interest to bar admission things to more conflicts of interest every day, opening offices, closing offices, marketing. We style ourselves the Office of General Counsel. And I do that with the two co-editors of our blog, Frank DeSantis and Tom Fair. I do business litigation also.
You're kind of the lawyers to the lawyers in your own firm.
That's exactly it.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
That's great. And your blog is The Law for Lawyers Today. And it started, as far as I can tell, 2014. Does that sound right? As a matter of fact, July 2014?
That's exactly right.
So
yeah,
we're
about to have our sixth anniversary.
Yeah, it's about to be your anniversary this month. So that's fun.
Yeah.
And what's the focus of your blog? Describe what kinds of stuff you're covering there.
We talk about legal ethics and professional responsibility. Everything that touches on the law for lawyers, the law of lawyering. We have a national scope, so we often talk about legal ethics rules that might apply across jurisdictions. And we try to be very timely. We try to offer we try to key our posts to things that are happening now, things that are of particular interest. Sometimes they're cautionary tales. Sometimes they're don't let this happen to you. And that seizes everybody's interest in the law world. But other times they're more thought pieces and things that are of less don't let this happen to you, and more have you thought about this and do this.
Yeah. A lot of ethics stories are cautionary tales, aren't they?
Yes,
if only more lawyers would pay attention. But hopefully they're paying attention to you.
Well, it's one of the reasons I like my particular niche. You're always kind of wearing the good guy's hat, helping people stay on the right side of things, to do the right thing, and to practice in accordance with the highest ideals of our profession.
Yeah. I might want to come back to that point later on in the interview, depending on if we have time. But let me talk about the blog a little bit. How did you get started? What motivated you to start a blog in the first place?
Well, because Thompson Hines is an AmLaw 200 firm, I should say. We have about 350-ish lawyers, give or take, and we're spread out in 8 different locations. We've got 4 Ohio offices, and we also have offices in DC, Atlanta, New York City, and Chicago. And so my colleagues in our Office of General Counsel, now our co-editors, started thinking about the fact that we have a lot of expertise in this area that we could share, that we could put out there for the benefit of other lawyers. So we started thinking in those terms in about 2013, and noodled it around off and on until we finally launched in July of 2014. And at that point, I kind of felt that we might have been a little bit late to the blog party. By 2014, well, my gosh, you had been running law sites for,
2002,
decades.
I started, yeah.
For decades by then. And a lot of other law firms had not only single blogs, but multiple blogs, and including frankly, firms that were in our marketplace. So our own market. So we thought we wanted to get something off the ground that would be beneficial and that would spotlight our abilities and our expertise in this niche area. So we became a LexBlog blog in 2014 in July, and for a while we were the only Thompson Hines blog for a good while. We started plugging away with weekly blogs. We took it very seriously and cranked out content every week, which I think is very important to have regular communication, regular posts, regular content. So that's kind of how our origin story.
I mean, you made a really interesting point there, which is something that I hear an awful lot from lawyers who are considering blogs, which is we're too late to the blogging game. So many people already, there's so many legal blogs out there already, but you didn't let that stop you. That you went forward. I mean, so what did you find? Did you find that in fact you were too late to the blogging game, or did you find that really didn't matter?
It didn't matter at all. It didn't matter at all because, as Colin and others at LexBlog always say, what you're bringing to the party is unique. Whether the party has started or not, you haven't been there. And your voice and your passion and your expertise, your angle on things is unique. And that's really what you bring to the party. In that sense, it's never too late to join in, because you're going to find readers who want your content because it speaks in your own voice. So that's been a particularly fun thing for me to find out. Your family stories, which a couple of which I worked into blog posts. That's really what makes it fun.
Well, and not just voice, but your expertise. I mean, you have, you are, there may be 20 other lawyers blogging about legal ethics. I don't know how many there are. There are certainly some others that I follow. But you
Sure.
have particular expertise. You have particular knowledge that you bring to it that others don't have, and that's really valuable.
Sure.
Let me ask. So when you there's three of you who write this. Was it three of you right from the beginning? Did you kind of conceive this and create it together, or did you kind of take the lead on it?
I'll call myself the chief cook and bottle washer.
Okay.
I could not do it without Frank DeSantis and Tom Fair. They are my second eyes and ears on every piece of content we push out. I co-author posts with them and with others at the firm. But I'd say of the 250 posts that we've done over the past 6 years, I think we're about 250, 260, something like that. I forget what the count says. I forget what the count says on the top of my admin site. But the vast majority are written by me.
Yeah.
But as I say, you need other people in the mix too. You need good co-editors. You need a good team. And I take pride in the fact that we've got one.
Yeah, having a co-editor is valuable. I mean, I've always blogged by myself for the most part, but I'm a former journalist and formerly worked in publishing, and I miss having, those others to, if nothing else, to be a second set of eyes and
right.
kind of help me, look at something I've written and tell me I shouldn't write it or something else, but also just to bounce ideas off of and whatever else. I mean, do you coordinate among yourselves in terms of who's going to cover what or who's going to be writing this week, or how does that work as a team?
Mainly they're there as a sounding board for me and also as a great source of ideas. It's very common for Tom or Frank to say, this is a topic that's blog worthy. We all follow the legal ethics and other blogospheres, and we are very tuned into current events in ethics world, as I call it. So, but they're a great source of ideas about what to write next, and to kind of keep everything fresh and keep the ideas flowing. They're wonderful at that.
It sounds like when you started out, your primary intended audience was the lawyers in your firm. You saw this as a vehicle for communicating with lawyers spread out in different locations in your firm. How did you get, in the early days, how did you develop a readership either among those lawyers in your firm, or how did you start to build it out to an audience beyond your firm?
We actually always had a vision of the blog as outward facing. We had the idea that the Law for Lawyers Today was definitely going to be a resource for our own lawyers. But we knew that there would be an audience externally also. And we, from the very beginning, were facing out as well as in. So we suspected, and it's turned out to be true, that there are a lot of in-house counsel out there, GCs, who would find what we have to say very useful, because they don't have an office of general counsel.
Right.
They don't have ethics counsel sitting in, their corner suite or maybe anywhere else either. And so in some important senses, we knew we might have an opportunity to become very, very useful to those kinds of consumers, readers, to that audience. And that has turned out to be very, very true. Many clients of Thompson Hines, their GCs are subscribers, or we can tell that they're clicking on our content. And we can also tell that there are many small companies that where we might be the closest thing that they have to, an ethics consult for them. So that's always been what we aspired to, and each year I think it becomes more and more something that has come true.
Yeah. Has part of the goal been to bring in business related to ethics work? And if so, how's it worked at that goal?
We do market our expertise externally. We help other lawyers through thorny issues when we have the opportunity to do so, whether it is a partner dispute or a partnership divorce, so to speak, some bar admission problems, the occasional disciplinary issue that unluckily falls into somebody's lap. But the main goal was to position ourselves and to credential ourselves as the go-to people, or as the experts, the folks that have an enormous amount of expertise and knowledge because of the focus that we've had over the years on the law of lawyering. So, we didn't go into it with a specific business goal. We knew that it might come, and we knew that, if we built our audience and credentialed ourselves, we would have opportunities that would in turn build the potential for business in our niche area. And, judged by the number of speaking opportunities we get and the number of engagements we have, we've been pleased.
Yeah. Speaking opportunities, I don't know if the press reaches out to you. I mean, those are all some of the side benefits I've seen dramatically over the years from blogging.
Yes.
Is that you get it's funny for me being a journalist. I'm a lawyer as well, but coming from a journalism background is that I've seen it from both sides. On my blog, I'm kind of acting as a journalist and covering people and reporting, but I'm constantly getting calls from journalists about topics I write about or about the industry more broadly, and I'm sure that happens with you as well.
It has. I was excited to get a call from Wisconsin Public Radio 2 weeks ago. They had an interesting case come down, and the reporter was looking for, it had a legal ethics issue. It was about judges and whether they could be Facebook friends with litigants, parties in front of them, in other words. I had blogged about that a couple years ago, and the reporter found it, and I had an opportunity to be part of an NPR piece because of a blog post I wrote. So stuff like that is just so fun, and it's so validating. Also, it really makes you feel that you are providing a service. You are providing important information for people to use. So that was very gratifying, and things like that happen on a regular basis. So it's a nice thing.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of funny because one of the next questions I was going to ask you was how has blogging affected your career, if at all? And I guess that's one way. But are there other ways that you feel that maybe your career is different today than it might have been today had you not been blogging?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think any blogger who's in a law firm feels like their star is burnished because of what they're doing. You become known as not the go-to person in your niche, certainly, and when you've been able to steadily increase readership and your content gets noticed and NPR calls you up. These are all good things for anybody's career.
Those are all good things, right?
The other thing I feel really gratified by is that I've been able to be kind of a blog evangelist. We started out with our lone little.
You're anticipating all my questions.
Well, I know you wanted to ask me about that.
I did want to ask you about that. I know you're a blog evangelist. So.
Well, we've gotten from our one little blog late to the party. Now Thompson Hines has 5 blogs, and I just couldn't be prouder of that. I think that growth illustrates just so much good things about blogging and the willingness of people to grow in their own niche and to have a voice and to push out content that other people are really, really interested in. So it took a while. So we launched in 2014. Our next blog didn't come online until 2017. But in those 3 years, I was, I made some presentations to different practice groups to say, hey, you want to be a blogger? Here's, I'm having a really good time and it's really fun. And don't you want to do this too? And so finally we got some takers. In 2017, our international trade blog, Trump and Trade, came online. They were the first ones after Law for Lawyers Today. And then we had a couple years after that, 2 more blogs come online. One called Source Code, which is a guidance for robo-advisors, which is a really interesting little niche. And then also in that summer of 19, last year, our ERISA litigation blog launched, which is a cross-disciplinary blog that's put out by some of our business litigators together with our employee benefits and executive compensation team. And then just last month, our 5th blog launched, and it's got the best name. All of these are on the LexBlog platform, of course. It's got the best name, I think. Does crime pay? And it's our white collar crime blog from lawyers across the firm that do that work. So it's.
I'm going to go try and find out the answer to that question right as soon as we're done here.
Well, they're going gangbusters. Where I have pushed out content once a week fairly faithfully, missed some weeks. They're going gangbusters. They're pushing out content twice a week, which is, a fantastic rate. And they have a good number of people on the team. But
I love that you said. I love that you said that part of what inspired others in your firm to get started was you talking about the fact that blogging is fun, which it is. I mean, I've been doing it a long time, and I do it because I love it. It's a lot of fun. But how do you maintain the routine of it? How do you have a routine around it? How do you keep doing it week after week after week? How have you maintained that?
I try to go into the study every Sunday morning with a cup of coffee. Over the previous week, I have picked a topic, conflict checked it, which is important for law bloggers to do. You never want to get crosswise with a client by mentioning someone you shouldn't or a topic you should. Unlike what you used to do, Bob, in the National Law Journal in those legacy days, most law blogs, some are, but many are not hard-hitting journalism. They're there to help build your brand. So you want to have due caution for what you say, what you pick. But it is very fun. I try to sit down. I try to knock it out in a couple hours. Pick an image and move it to the rest of the team to read and give input on. And then hopefully publish every Thursday morning. So that's the routine. And I've been trying to do it for 6 years.
So do you think have you developed a style? I mean, do you think there's a secret to writing an effective blog post? Is there something you try to do with your blog posts?
It's a lot of, I don't know if it's a style necessarily. It's a way to be kind to readers. When I have the opportunity to mentor other bloggers in my firm or mentor my guest posters, I always emphasize that one of the things that makes it fun is that you don't have to write a brief. You can have it's a completely different way of writing. It's even different than a client alert. I emphasize that the tone of our blog is breezy. You can use contractions. You can say,
it's liberating for a lawyer to be able to write that.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, so fun. It's so different from what the voice we use for a court. Right. We don't want to use that voice for our blog readers. We have headings. We have short paragraphs. We might break a paragraph into two in a blog just because that paragraph is too darn long. And it's hard for a reader to drag their eye down that paragraph, where you wouldn't break it there in a brief to the court. So things like that.
Thinking about the visual parts of it as well as the substance of it. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think we've all waded into blogs that it seems like a lot of effort, and so we'll stop reading. And I aspire in the Law for Lawyers today to keep people reading with short sentences and short paragraphs and punchy writing and always a take-home conclusion.
Good call. Do you read other blogs? Do you spend much time reading other blogs?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. How do you keep up with your subject area? How much time do you have to spend in order to be ready on Sunday morning to sit down and write that? How much time are you putting in during the week on just keeping up with developments?
At least a couple hours. But that is par for the course. If you are in a specialty, whatever it is, whether you're an employee benefits lawyer or a products liability lawyer, a tax lawyer, you are reading your loose leaves, what we used to call loose leaves in the olden days, every day. And so, you keep up with the legal back that comes into your box through the grace of subscriptions. You subscribe to other people's blogs. You look at the news, read the Wall Street Journal, read the New York Times. And you'll, no matter what blogging niche you're in, you will never come up short for ideas if you do those things.
Right. Yeah. One of the things I used to say to people about blogging is that blogging makes you smarter because it forces you into a routine of keeping up with the literature or whatever it is that you're covering on your blog. It forces you in to stay up current on that. And that's to me one of the great values of it over the years. And I just think it keeps you lively. It keeps you going.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. Let me come back to your ethics hat on. Put your ethics hat back on again, and just what about the ethics of blogging? What are the danger areas, if any? What should lawyers know from an ethical point of view about blogging?
Well, it's interesting. One thing that you have to think about is anything that touches up against a client of your firm's.
Right.
Numerous clients, maybe the majority of clients of any size, have outside counsel guidelines. And if you're a law blogger, you're probably familiar with the fact that your clients do not want to be mentioned without their permission. So, and mentioned should receive a broad reading, broad interpretation. It's always better, to ask. And if you don't want to ask, find another topic. So that's one ethics of blogging. Other things that you want to be aware of is not giving legal advice. Not forming unintended client relationships. Right. And you do that with disclaimers and with careful attention to what you say and what you don't say. The reason you don't want to give legal advice is because, a random reader, you don't know the facts of their situation or the jurisdiction that they're sitting in. Many things that we say as bloggers about the law are very jurisdiction specific, and you always want to be wary of opining or advising and tread carefully in those directions.
Yeah. What are there any issues that you've been writing about lately that particularly interest you? What's hot right now in topics that you're covering?
One of my colleagues just wrote this morning on something that's very hot, and that is remote working. The licensing issues and the unauthorized practice of law issues that working remotely, perhaps as a pandemic refugee, you've left New York, you removed yourself from Florida, and you've gone to your second home in another state. Well, in another jurisdiction, if you're not licensed there. So what's the story?
Right.
So that's a very hot topic.
Yeah.
That's a very hot topic.
Yeah. And there are still jurisdictions that you require you to have a physical office in the particular state in which you're practicing law, right?
Yes. Yes. I think that sounds right to me. And all jurisdictions jealously guard the border. And unlicensed practice, unless there's an exception, temporary practice can be one exception. So that's a very trenchant topic now in our pandemic era here.
Yeah, I'll put you on the spot with one more question on ethics. There's so much talk right now in a number of states around the possibility of reforming, revising the rules of professional conduct pertaining to things like unauthorized practice of law or to ownership of law firms by by non-lawyer entities.
Yeah.
Do you have a position on all of that? Do you think reform is something that we need, or are you happy with things the way they are?
Well, it's very interesting. I was talking to a colleague the other day, and I said, wouldn't it be nice if our license to practice law was like a license to drive a car, and shouldn't it be? I also remarked that we're not going to see that in our lifetime, but the model rules have opened up that kind of practice and tried to solve some of those issues that are particularly acute for transactional lawyers. And so there's movement afoot, there's reform afoot, and that's always a good thing. It keeps our profession vital and keeps our things percolating along in the right direction, I think.
Yeah. Well, just like I warned you that I probably would, I've kept you longer than the 30 minutes I said I would have you here. I have a bad habit of doing that. But let me just, any closing words of advice for other lawyers who are thinking about blogging or who are maybe doing it, installed in it, or whatever else? What would you say?
Take the plunge. If you're thinking about blogging and you like to write, and you have a niche, and don't hold back. Take the plunge. It's really, really fun, and it can bring you lots of benefits. If you have a blog and you feel stalled, take a fresh look at it and think about what to do to freshen it up, and make a pledge to yourself to put more routine in it, and see where it takes you. I think it'll take you in a good place.
Well, Karen Rubin, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for everything that you do and have done for so many years to nurture and mentor folks in this space. It's really been an honor to have a chance to meet you virtually.
Yeah, well, it's been great to meet you, and maybe someday we'll be able to meet not virtually. But thanks a lot. So we've been speaking with Karen Rubin. The Law for Lawyers Today is the name of the blog, Thompson Hines blog. And as I say, you can find a recording of this will be posted up to YouTube, youtube.com/LexBlog. And we will be back next week with another episode of This Week in Legal Blogging. On behalf of everybody at LexBlog, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. This is Bob Ambrogi.